So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Brianna Rossett, the Office and Events Coordinator for the Small Business Center. And today we have Monique Morrison. She is a certified digital marketer and trainer, and she is the owner of Success Digital Incorporated. So today we're going to go over essentially the ins and outs of Google My Business. If you don't know what Google My Business is, you actually probably all know what it is, just didn't know what it's actually called. So when you just type in Google a business or a location, you can actually see usually it comes right up, right on top, usually a map where they're located, their phone number, their email address, their phone, their location, all of that good stuff is all right there. And that is actually called Google My Business. So we're actually going to dive deep into like the most powerful free online tool for small businesses. And Monique here is an absolute expert at it, and she will explain everything all to us. And maybe we'll learn some tips and tricks from her and apply that to our business. And I'm hoping to learn a few tips and tricks myself since we use Google My Business and we promote it all the time at the Small Business Center here in Belleville. I just want to go over a few housekeeping rules. Please remain on mute, and if you have any questions at all, please direct them to the chat. We will also offer at the very end, you'll have the chance to ask as many questions, and you'll also get a copy of the PowerPoint as well. I'm now going to pass it over to Monique.
Awesome. Thanks, Brianna.
No problem.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. I will apologize if there's any background noise as well. My flights at the airport kind of got adjusted, so I'm in the airport lounge right now. So if you hear a little bit of rustling, that's that. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right. And you should be able to see my screen. If for some reason you can't, you can just let me know. All right. So as Brianna said, my name is Monique Morrison. I am the founder of Success with Digital. I also have Big Ups Consulting, which is more of a digital marketing consulting firm. I'm also a trainer and coach with Digital Marketers. So that's the largest digital marketing education company in North America. I've been a coach with them through their elite program for 2 years now. I have been helping businesses launch digitally and on location since 2006. And one of the things that I love to do is share my knowledge. So if at any point in this presentation you have questions, feel free to raise your hand, put them in the chat, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end as well. So kind of just before I start off, I want to get into the whys of Google My Business. And so if you run a local business, you really should have Google My Business. And the reason for that is it helps you to connect with customers in the moments that matter. And so it's been quite a while now, probably about a decade, I guess, that Google did this kind of tracking of how people find data, and they found that now, since we've gone mobile and Google has such a robust vast amount of information, that there's this moment of called the zero moment of truth. And that's usually when someone's in the moment and they need to get information. What do? They pull out their phone and they look for it, where before, prior to, I guess, the internet, you would walk down a street, you would hear a radio. It was more a little bit passive in terms of how people learned about businesses. And so Google My Business really allows you to connect with customers in the moment that matter. So this is a stat where 87% of smartphone owners turn to search in the moment of need. And you've probably done it yourself where, you ask a question, you're like, oh, let's Google it. And someone just pulls out their phone and does that Google. And interestingly enough, 30% of all mobile searches are actually related to location. So the tip really is to be there. Google helps businesses lead people from the moment of looking to the moment of clicking, calling, or buying. And so what it really does is allow you to get found at the time of search, but not necessarily just people that are looking specifically for your business. It also helps people to find you when they're looking for businesses like yours. And so you can see this example here of a client of mine where in a month, yes, they had people searching their branded name, but look how many times they showed up 37,651 times within searches, but 2,700 of those were people just searching restaurant near me. So you can imagine in your business category, if people are searching within your local area and they're trying to find businesses like yours, even if they're doing a category search, you still have the capacity to show up and to be found by those customers. And typically, if someone's searching on their mobile device for a category, if they're looking for something like restaurants, well, they're most likely looking for restaurants because they want to actively go, or they're looking for a clothing store or any type of business because they're in need. And so that's where Google My Business really allows people to connect with businesses in that moment when they're ready to buy, where something like Facebook or social media is a little bit more passive. You're running ads and content and stuff, just to kind of have that top of mind awareness. And so you can see within Google My Business, it's really good at creating awareness. So in this example, there was, for this particular client, they had just under 85,000 searches that people were looking. And you can see that the direct, so about, a little bit less than 25%, customers found them directly searching their name. But you'll see here that almost 75% of the searches were discovery. So that's where customers found that particular Google My Business listing by searching for a category, a product, or a specific service. So Google My Business really does have the power to drive new businesses to you. So there's a few ways that you can get found on Google My Business. And so there's the listing on search and the listing on maps. And so whether someone's in the map app or in the map tab of the Google Chrome browser, they can find you if you have a Google My Business. And depending on the particular type of business you are, you might show up in both. Now, I will just kind of put a caveat in, and I will cover, service area businesses in a little bit. But if you are a service area business, meaning you go to people, people do not come to your location, you do not list your location on your Google My Business, you wouldn't show up in map listings, you would just show up on search. All right, so when you put a focus on Google My Business in terms of wanting to get into that level 3 back, showing up in the search results, the customer actions and the way that people connect with your business will grow. So you can see here, people didn't just see this particular client's listing, they actually interacted with it. So within the customer actions, there's kind of 3 main actions that people can take. They can visit your website, they can request directions, or they can call you. So you can see here that in the last quarter for this particular client, people took 8,500 actions on their Google My Business listing, and almost 5,000 of those were by them actually actively getting a phone call or even visiting a website. So you can see how that can be in a local market, a big boost in awareness and interactions with people. When we looked at the first example, 75% were discovery calls. If they're getting people that are just discovering them, not actually actively searching their business, and they're getting 5,000 phone calls within a quarter through that, you can see kind of how powerful it can be. So I see here, Francis, how does one see the total number of searches for your business? So when you're logged into Google My Business, there's an insights section. And a lot of the times they'll show you the beginner insights kind of when you first log into the dashboard, but there's an insights section of Google My Business. So when you go into the insights as well, you can also see what the days of the week that people are calling. There's quite a bit of information there that you can look at. All right. So essentially, all that to say, every local business that qualifies needs to claim their Google My Business. But the first things first, um, you'll want to make sure that you have these in place. So the first thing that you'll do is create your listing. And you do that just going to, if you Google Google My Business, you'll be able to create your listing. Also, they're starting to migrate from actually logging into the Google My Business backend and people being able to update their listings right from search. So if you have one that's kind of created automatically by Google, you can go there and claim it as well. And so once you've gone through and created your listing, what you want to do is optimize it and really go through every single section of the profile and make sure that you're adding as much detailed information as well. You can see here for this particular client, we have 5 different categories that we've added them to, and we added them in the level of priority. We have their address, we have their service areas, their hours of operation, and then there's also additional information that you can add to your listing. And so when you see this panel, if you search a company, you'll notice that in the Google search results, if you're searching a specific company, it'll open up this panel. And this panel is called the knowledge panel. Sandra, no, Google My Business is not a paid app. It's completely free to be able to sign up for. You do have the ability to run ads for your Google My Business listing through Google Ads, but this itself is completely free. So when someone searches your business on Google, if you have your account made, this knowledge panel will show up. It'll also open up if, say, someone searched for something like restaurants, and then you'll see the little maps and you'll see the top, local 3-pack is what we call it, of the listings. When they click on it, it'll open up this information as well. And so once you have created your listing and you've added all the information you can, the next thing you're going to want to do is verify your listing. And that's really important to do. So once you get through this process, it'll automatically bring you to this stage to be able to verify. And typically they give you a few different options, but a lot of times the one that happens is that they're going to send you a postcard by mail. And once you do that, once you receive it, you have a set amount of time before you can put that confirmation code that's on your postcard that you get in the mail. You'll have a set amount of time to be able to put that back in to be able to verify. So I've had this happen where clients, they don't realize, they think it's like an ad or a promotional item that's coming from Google. So they throw out their verification code accidentally, and then once that happens, it can take another 6 weeks. It can take 6 weeks for the verification code to come. It's usually faster, but then if you lose it or you let it expire, you have to redo it again. So you can imagine that if you're trying to verify your listing and you don't get that code in time, or you think it's junk mail, that it'll take quite a bit of time to be able to get it verified. So normally, if you have a larger business with multiple staff, usually they allow you to put the contact name there, and then we'll put the contact name, like very important, so people that when they see it, then hopefully they don't lose it. All right, so they typically mail it to you. Sometimes they do give you the option to be able to do a verification call where they will call you and give you a code, but typically they mail out a postcard. You're welcome. Oh, sorry. I hopped forward a little bit too much. All right, so one thing to note when it comes to Google My Business, online only businesses and select other businesses do not qualify for Google My Business profiles. And so this is kind of a little bit wishy-washy, especially since COVID. But if you're online only and say you don't offer local delivery, which would make you a service area business, then you wouldn't qualify for a Google My Business profile. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the where now of Google My Business. There's 3 different types of search results that you'll want to show up in. So your listing helps you to stand out on Google search and maps. We kind of covered that a little bit. And so there's a few different types of search results. There's the branded search. So this is if someone actually searches your company name. Then there's the Google 3-pack. So this is where most people want to show up in, because if someone's searching, you know, in this example of family restaurants, if you show up here, it's just more likely that people will click on one of these listings. Although that's not to say that people won't click more places, where then you would see a longer list of results there. Is there another Google resource we can advise people to go to if they are online only? For this particular type of service, not really, although because Google this is really about local marketing. So online, it would just be doing SEO. And driving people to your website. So that would be like a whole different kind of strategy, but Google doesn't have a platform itself. It is just the Google search results, but that would be the platform. And so the third place is the more places. And so when that opens it up, it kind of opens it up in that slash half Google search results, half map kind of thing. So the local finder is what it's called when this opens up. So you'll show up here, and then again, the goal of really working Google My Business is trying to get to the top of these section. So service coaching practice that could be in person or by Zoom, does that qualify? If you service people locally and you either offer delivery, in-person meetings, anything like that, that would be the same as if you were a psychologist. You can have a Google My Business listing. It would only be if, say you had an online store and you didn't offer local delivery to the people that are local that buy. They would have to actually pay for Canada Post, and you would ship it out, and there's no local interaction. That's where it would be considered not a local business, because they want you to either service an area or they want people to be able to come to you. And that's just specifically Google My Business, because it's the whole local hub is what they're trying to maintain. All right, so I'm going to run through now how ranking in Google My Business works. There's a little bit of technical kind of stuff here, but I'm trying to keep it as fairly easy to understand as possible. But if you do have questions, feel free to kind of let me know. All right, so I'm going to go through the 3 main ranking factors. So when it comes to the local pack kind of finder ranking factors, these are the top 8. This isn't an exhaustive list, but these are just the things that you want to think about. So the first thing that Google will look at in terms of who they're going to place in the search results and in that local 3-pack are Google My Business listings. So there's proximity. That means like where I'm searching from and who is the closest to me that matches those search results. There's the category. So did I choose the right category for my business to be found in the search results? And then is there the keyword in the business title? So if I'm looking for restaurants, does it say Sandro's Restaurant? The next is link signals. So this might be anchor text, domain linking authority, and linking domain quality. And just to kind of sum that up in a Cliff's Note version, that would be essentially your website that is attached to your Google My Business. Is there proper SEO done? Do people link to your website? Do you link outside? And how old is your website domain and that kind of thing? When it comes to the third one, there's review signals. And so this is how many reviews you have total the review velocity. So what that means is like, do you get a bunch of reviews all at one time, which makes it you know, a little bit suspicious? Do you consistently get reviews on an ongoing basis? And then also review diversity. And what that means is, do people leave reviews where some leave 5-star reviews, some people leave written reviews, some star only. So is there kind of like a makeup that way? And then I won't go into the on-page signals, but I will talk about citation signals. And so citation signals is when other information aggregators send signals to Google as well. So that would be, say, Yellow Pages or any other directory site that's kind of connected with Google in terms of the information out there. So that's a local SEO tip, is that if you want to kind of even rank your website and stuff like that, go through and find all of the free directory sites that you can create your listings on, and do that, because it does help not just with Google My Business, but SEO in general. And so the next one that kind of goes through, that's, you know, these ones are all in your control, are social signals. So this would be the Google engagement, Facebook engagement, Twitter engagement, etc., Instagram. So you can see a breakdown of the percentage in terms of the weight that it carries when they're doing ranking. So the Google My Business signals, how they're interacting, all that fun stuff is like 25%. The next one is 16.5. It kind of goes down, so you can see social signals, although it's listed there, compared to the Google My Business signals, you know, it's a 10th, carries a 10th of the weight. So there are 3 factors Google uses to determine results, which results are included in these local search results. So the first one, I did 3, but the first one is relevance. So relevance refers to how well a local business profile matches what someone is searching for. So you'll want to make sure that you add complete business information to help Google understand your business and match your profile to relevant searches. And so that's not just, I'm not just talking about titles here, I'm talking about going through every section of the profile. There's these additional features or additional section of the Google My Business. And when you go in there, you can even say, like, is it women led? Is it, you know, accessible? Do you offer, you know, all of these different things? Even if you make sure to go through that section and do it all, because if someone's looking for a wheelchair accessible restaurant, if you don't have that checked off but somebody else does, then they're probably going to show up higher in those search results, even though you might offer the same things. It's just Google can only use the information that you give to them. All right, so the second one is distance. So distance considers how far each potential search result is from the location term used in a search. So if you search restaurants Toronto, well, they're going to want to search specifically in Toronto. So if a user doesn't specify a location in their search, then basically Google will calculate the distance based on what they do know about their location. So and if they give permission, app permissions to know their location. And so the third one is called prominence. And so prominence refers to how well known a business is. And some places are more prominent in the offline world, and search results try to reflect that in the local ranking. For example, well-known locations or brands are also more likely to be prominent in local search results. And so the way that that happens is, if you think a vast majority of all internet users use Google or a product of Google, whether that's Gmail or YouTube or any of the other suites, Google Chrome as a browser. And so they're able to take all of this data because people all have that information on their smartphones. And so Google is able to track, even if someone is not, even if the business is not online per se, Google still knows that there's a business at that address, and they can, based on people's smartphone tracking their MAC addresses, be able to know that that's a busy place. So even though they might not have a huge, say, social media following, and they might not do all of these things, Google will still list them higher up because they know that people frequent that place and the results match. So another thing to note about prominence is Prominence is also based on information that Google has about the business across the web. So that can be their website, that can be links, media stories, articles, and again, directories. So with Prominence, Google review count and review score also factors into the local search ranking. So the more reviews and positive ratings that you have, it can improve your local ranking. So your position in web results, so how you show up in the search results is also a factor. So search engine optimization best practices apply also. I'm not going to jump into a whole lot of SEO chat today, just because it's a whole other animal in of its own. But just to say that you definitely want to make sure that you're doing proper SEO on your website. All right, so localized organic rank factorings, just to kind of recap, we talked about link signals. When you're looking at, so first, sorry, I kind of got ahead of myself. When I first showed the first graph, that was the Google My Business ranking factors. So now we're looking at localized organic ranking factors. So that's just on the Google search results as well. It changes a little bit, but essentially the same applies. So even if you're looking to rank your Google My Business profile, or you're looking to rank as a local business in search engine results, you're still looking at a lot of these same factors, just with link signals being a higher weight than the Google My Business signals. So if you take these steps to increase your Google My Business ranking, you're also going to be helping, if you have a website, the ranking of your website as well. Okay, so this is, again, you are going to get the slides. I'm not going to run through all of these, but these are essentially the top 50 local pack finder factors. So essentially how you're going to show up. And so this is a lot of what I've covered, just more nuanced in terms of the results. So you can see proximity of address to the point of search, physical address is in the city of search, the proper Google My Business category associations, and so on and so forth. So I won't go through all these, but you will get the slides and you'll be able to access the list. All right, so now I'm going to talk about external sources that increase your local ranking factor. So the first one is your website. And so without going too much into SEO, what I do want to say is if you have a website location page, then that helps to your benefit when it comes to Google My Business. And so Supermart is a client of mine, and when we built their website, they had under this Lions brand, they had 3 locations. And so we created a location page for each location. We had the Google Maps on there. We listed the management team. We also listed our other locations. We took a lot of the main information that you'd find on the knowledge pack and put it here. So their name, their address, their phone number, links to their social media, their hours of operation. And then the red Get Directions button actually opened up Google Maps, and it was the actual link to their Google Maps Get Directions link. And so we add that to our clients' websites quite frequently. And if you're able to do that on your website, then I definitely suggest that. But having a location page on your website works wonders, as well as putting your address in the footer of your website as well. So another external that works well to help with Google My Business rankings are brand mentions. So this was a press release that went out to a local media company, and when they launched a ladies' night. But these type of mentions, even if they're historical, they help because it helps Google build this overview of who you are, how well you're known, your business, and kind of creates this profile for you. So brand mentions work really well. So that's where this is an example of a media site, but say you have a company and you are a supplier for products that you get wholesale. If one example I'm thinking of is like in the construction industry, maybe you're a supplier of, you're a roofer and you work with these particular shingles. If your supplier has on their website links out to service providers, definitely ask if you can be included, because that is another brand mention. Another thing, external source that helps with the Google My Business listing is third-party reviews. And so that would be TripAdvisor, Yelp, really anywhere, House, those kind of places that will allow you to get third-party reviews. So not only do they look for reviews within the Google My Business, but they also look at third-party reviews as well. So if there are other places where you can get these reviews, then that's great. If you have a e-commerce store, you can, depending on your platform, you can also get reviews for your particular products that when people leave reviews on your website, it creates what's called a rich snippet, which tells Google that it's a review. And then that also helps with ranking and also shoppable ads and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. So all right, so social media, we saw that had a weight of about 3%, but social media does help. So you want to make sure that you keep your information up to date, and also not just in terms of posting, but also keeping your address up to date, your hours of operation, because they look at that to see if your online profile is kind of correct. Directories, I've kind of mentioned this before, and I can't stress enough how beneficial it is to have yourself on as many directories as possible. Just note that it is time consuming, because unless you pay a company to automatically do that for you, it typically takes quite a bit even to create one profile. So it's one of those things that is ongoing, takes a little bit of time, but definitely worth the benefits. All right, so when it comes to the profile, there's key profile areas that are important when trying to rank. So the first is the business name. There's categories, and you want to make sure that you choose as many as applicable, and make sure that they're as accurate as possible, because you will be ranked based on the categories that you choose. When it comes to the website, you'll want to make sure that you have a link to that. If you do in fact have a website, some people that don't have a website, they'll use like a link tree or a link to their Facebook page. And then reviews. So what we kind of part of our whole marketing implementation and system that we look at is always how can we implement ways to be able to request reviews and testimonials or case studies from clients that have been successful or that are happy. And if you don't have a mechanism in place or even a process in place to actively ask for these reviews, I would definitely look at doing that. For this particular restaurant, it was a local business. And so because it's a restaurant, people would spend some time there. We put in what's called social Wi-Fi into their location. And when people wanted to sign onto the Wi-Fi, they would sign up to their email list, get access to the Wi-Fi, and then we would be able to tell based on their MAC address when they would leave the location, and it would send them an email automatically asking them for a review 30 minutes after they left. Now that's obviously not required. You can just simply email people or ask people, put up a poster at the door, but having something in place where you request reviews is definitely encouraged, because one, it'll help with your ranking in the results, but two, also people that are looking for your business, they're going to want to see that those reviews and that you respond to them. So when it comes to requesting customers to leave reviews, you'll definitely want to make sure that you respond, that you ask, that you're empathetic. Potential customers really want to see that engagement. So some tips on responding to reviews is to, one, take them seriously. If they have an issue, definitely be empathetic. Even if someone leaves you a 1-star review, but you are able to respond to it in a super stellar way that shows, how professional you are, people will forgive a 1-star review if they see that you're empathetic, that you're timely, and that you were genuine in wanting to help. Some responses are an opportunity for marketing as well. If they said, oh, they didn't have this, and you could say, oh, sorry, we might not have had that time, but did you know we offer it on Tuesdays for X amount, or something like that. But implementing marketing into and promoting maybe information that people don't know about your business within the replies. So the next thing is when doing your profile and keeping it up to date, you definitely want to add photos. Businesses with photos see 35% more clicks to their business and 42% higher requests for driving directions in Google Maps. And so you can add photos yourself, and you can also ask customers to leave photos as well. And so you'll see here within the insights, when you add photos to your profile, not only does it kind of look to see how many photos you've added and also customer photos, but you can see businesses like you as well. So you can get a bit of a comparison as to where you are in benchmarks in terms of photos. All right. So the next thing that you can do with your Google My Business profile that is quite big now is Google Posts. And just like a Facebook post and an Instagram post, you can post to Google, your Google My Business, and those would show up in Google search results. So these are great to be able to show different promos, deals, news, updates. When you do post, you have the option to set like a time frame on when a promotion runs, and there's just lots of information. Within Google My Business, there's also the services as well. So lots of ways to be able to kind of interact and be able to put information out there. Yes, so a post in Google My Business, when you're managing it, you'll be able to see whether you're in the search results managing it, or I apologize, there's the baby crying in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but so within the search results, or if you're in the back end of Google My Business editing it, there'll be a place where you can put out posts, and those posts basically show up on your timeline, but they can also show up in search results. So for instance, say you had an event, a promotion that was going to run for the weekend, you could post that multiple times. That you can say when it starts, when it ends, a link to be able to find more information, share a photo, or even a video within Google My Business, and that shows up in the search results and on your profile. So just like you can put out a Facebook post, you can put out a post on Google My Business, and it is a great way to assist in that ranking, because Google always gives preference to their platform. So if you're using their tools, then they're going to reward you for that. So the next thing that I want to kind of talk about.
Before you move on, there's a question. I have someone says, where is the post, sorry, in the platform?
Oh, I was just answering that.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at emails.
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so, but let me know if you need more clarification on that. So the next feature I want to talk about is messages. And so messages, people can message you through your Google My Business listing, just like they could through, say, Facebook Messenger and through your business profile. But when it comes to Google My Business, you need to have the app installed on your smartphone in order to get access to this. Another thing to note is that, another thing to note with messages is that Google only wants to provide the messaging feature to people that are going to respond in a timely manner. And so when you turn on messaging in the app on your smartphone, it will warn you that if you don't answer within a reasonable amount of time, that they might take the messaging feature away. But it's a great way for people to ask questions. If they see your services, they're looking at your hours, and they are able to send you a message, then you can respond quickly, just like you could if you were doing any other kind of chat through Facebook or Instagram as well. All right, so some Google do's is to enter complete data. Make sure to verify your locations, so your businesses. Keep your hours accurate. There is a way to even go in if you know that you're closed for specific holidays, or you do minimal hours or anything like that. You can go into Google My Business and say, we're closed on these days, our hours change to this, and it's really beneficial. And it's also beneficial not just to be in Google's good graces, but also for the people that are looking for your businesses. If you're actually not open on, say, a holiday Monday, but you didn't turn it off, and someone's like, oh, they're open, and they drive all the way to your business because they expect it to be open, that can be a poor user experience as well. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep your hours accurate. Manage and respond to reviews, add photos, and use your official business name. Don't add any extra words or anything like that because it is frowned upon by Google. Some Google don'ts is don't set up a fake or incorrect address. Make sure that you're choosing the correct category, and don't name your business incorrectly. So don't use any keywords that aren't actually part of your business registered business name. Don't add city names, extra words, or even agency names. So agency names, that's kind of like speaks to people that say if they're a realtor and they're with Remax, you wouldn't want to put Remax in the name. Technically, that's not allowed. All right, so when it comes to service area businesses, I've spoken a little bit about this so far, but service area businesses are essentially businesses that do not have locations, but they do service the local area. So customers don't come to you, but you do go to customers. And so some things to know about service area businesses is that you typically do not have storefronts where customers go. A lot of times these are home-based businesses. Service area businesses go to their customers, which means that service area businesses cannot show their address on Google My Business and therefore do not show up on Google Maps. But even if you have a service area business, I encourage you to invest time in getting your Google My Business going, even if you don't show up on the maps. All right. So next I want to talk about something that can end up being a little bit tricky, and that's to suggest edits. So when someone sees this knowledge panel down at the bottom, it'll always say suggest an edit or own this business. And anyone that sees your knowledge panel, they can go in and they can suggest an edit. And if you don't notice it right away, sometimes Google will change it automatically. And this just isn't a Google thing. This happens on Facebook too. If Facebook asks someone questions, do you know this business? Is this their address? Is this what they provide? They'll go through and ask those questions, and sometimes they'll modify your listing based off of what people say. So you want to make sure that you go in frequently and just check in on and see if there's been any updates through suggested edits. So you'll see here when people come in, they can suggest an edit to the name, other details, the things that they offer, that kind of thing, or even just say that it's closed or not available. And it is important to note that Google does encourage people familiar with your business to answer these questions. So when I say familiar, Google knows that these people have frequented your business before, or they also, if a local guide or someone that actively does reviews goes to your business, they'll ask them to suggest edits as well the next time that they go into the app, or sometimes if they have notifications turned on, they'll actively ask them. So you'll definitely want to look at that. And then below the suggested an edit, you'll also see there's this know this place, share the latest info. And that goes through a very similar process. So you just want to kind of go into Google My Business, make it a habit, on a quarterly basis at minimum, that you go in, check everything, make sure everything's okay, and that it's all up to date. So just go in to the listings and make sure that it's up to date. So typically when you are updating your Google My Business account, you would go to google.com/business. They're actually changing this, and I think that over time they're actually going to zero out this link and only have people adjust their Google My Business from the search results or from Google search. But as of right now, you can go to google.com/business to edit your listing. To manage your listings on the go, you can go with the Google My Business app. It's available on both iPhone and Android devices, and you can just edit everything from there. If you have multiple businesses, you can edit multiple businesses and manage them right from within the app. All right, so when it comes to suspensions, typically there are certain things that you need to watch when it comes to Google. They're not as stringent as, say, something like Facebook and ad accounts, but you want to be mindful that when it comes to Google My Business, that you don't want to, put out information that might be deemed incorrect, or profanity, those type of things, because you don't want your account to get suspended. If for some reason it does, and it's to no fault of your own, you can ask for it to be reviewed. But sometimes it just, sometimes they just take it away, and not without good reason. So an example would be that when COVID first hit, I had a client that owned a chaga company, like the chaga tea, and they posted to Google My Business Posts an article that they wrote on their site about how chaga can cure COVID. Well, instantly, their account got suspended and they weren't able to ever get it back. Now, obviously, they were making medical claims that they most likely couldn't prove. So that's not really Google's fault. So you just want to make sure that you always are living within the confines of how they want you to use the platform. All right, so just to kind of go through a quick action plan to kind of sum up a lot of the stuff that I've covered today. An action plan to increase your local ranking when it comes to relevance. You want to make sure that your Google My Business content is keyword optimized. And so if you're putting out posts and you are in a specific neighborhood or in a specific postal code, you can include that in your information, making sure that your categories are topically correct. You can include geo identifiers like postal codes, neighborhoods, GPS coordinates in supporting content like Google My Business sites, their posts, and even in the services section. So you don't want to stuff those into the name, as I mentioned, but you can put it in other areas like the services section. Keyword and optimize the location page on your website. Keyword and optimize photos and media on your Google My Business account. You'll want to find a way to be able to get more brand mentions. And then also create relationships between related entities. So if you have two companies and they're related, just make sure that there's ways that they link to each other. Or if you have suppliers that list vendors on their site, have yourself listed on there because that helps as well. When it comes to prominence, you want to build more brand accounts, and what that means is social profiles. So you can create, and I just want to kind of make sure it's really clear that for a Google My Business or a search engine ranking, the way that they view a lot of the social media sites is the same way as they view directory sites. So the more you have and the more places that they can find you, the higher the prominence is that you're going to have and weight in your ranking. But all that to say is, if say you created a Twitter account because you wanted to help your Google My Business in your search rankings, but you don't plan to actually actively post to Twitter, just don't link to it from your website. Only link to places where you're actively going to be posting and engaging with people. So you can build more citations and directory listings, acquire more brand mentions and features. This is all to do with prominence. You can build a backlink graph of accounts and listings. So again, like looking at what your network is of sites, and can you link back and forth to them, have a mechanism in place to get more Google My Business reviews, third-party reviews, and try to get highly ranked website and brand properties as well. So that is basically the ins and outs of Google My Business. I'd love to know if anyone has any questions about the information. I'll just go ahead and stop sharing, and then